Rohan is a personal friend, and we've been trying through ASET to choose SME subject matter experts and mentors who are role models. And Rohan, in a sense, is a role model for me also with what he does, and I'm really thrilled with the kind of initiatives he's taken. A young friend, surely I'm much older than he is. So Rohan was graduated from SPS MBHS College of Architecture in Kolhapur in 2008. So definitely a much younger friend. He spent much of his 2008 in Charles Corrier's office in Mumbai, working on urban design and institutional projects in Pune and Chennai, Toronto and Portugal. So he's one of those lucky ones. He was part of a team in Corrier's office that worked on the urban design of the Holy Al-Haram Mosque in Mecca, and the book called A Place in the Shade. I'm sure many of you heard of it. A book on Charles Corrier's essays and ideas in 2010 is A Place in the Shade. In 2010, he moved to Pune to work with another stalwart, Christopher Bellinger. So he's led a life that many of you would want to lead probably, where he was exposed to projects like IIT Hyderabad, YMCA Rehabilitation Center, IIM Udaipur, Pema Gachal Jong in Bhutan, and the Azim Premji University. A significant achievement was the Aga Khan School at the Chitrawad in Gujarat, where he single-handedly won the competition for CCBA. So that's the feather in his cap with CCBA. He has many more feathers, actually. He started his practice in 2015 with a project called Milk, a recreation center for kids and adults. His next project was on public sanitation, and that's what really brought us together as well, the design of restrooms for women in Thane. Actually, what brought us together was the Design Masters Challenge, where he was one of the finalists, and then a nice friendship grew. The design for the public sanitation has claimed a lot of attention. 14 different locations in Thane. This project led to many variations on public sanitation. In fact, I have visited a project of his in Bandra. He, along with an NGO called Agasti, a sustainable toilet foundation, developed several models for the MTDC. Prototypes for village sanitation, group and individual household toilets. Working on prototypes of affordable housing in Neral, a toilet complex for truck drivers, and a swimming pool complex at Malkapur. So that's Rohan for you, and can't get someone who's more suited for a design challenge on washrooms, brought to you by Sarah and Washrooms and Beyond, and Ethos is a partner with the same. Over to you, Rohan. Take it forward.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think Rohan's camera is...
Yeah, my camera is not working. First of all, thank you for that introduction. It was very kind, and I'm really sorry the camera is not working, but I think the screen is on. And so it's a kind of a presentation which I'll just start on public sanitation. So I'm just going to show the journey that we went through and where we are standing today. So public sanitation is one of the verticals in my practice. Basically, we do a variety of projects ranging from single family houses to affordable housing, which is a set of 50 to 60 houses, and then some restoration projects. So public sanitation is one part of it. And we started working on this in 2015 when we met Agasti. The first project we did was the Light Box, which was the restroom for women. And in fact, we started with this sketch. The sketch was very powerful in the sense it says that in a warm climate like India, people have a very different relationship to the built form. One needs minimal protection like a chhatri or an overhead canopy during at night. The base place is to be outdoors under the sky. So it kind of expresses this whole idea of being minimal and at the same time being effective. Because what happens is these projects on public sanitation, they are on a very tight budget. So the design has to be very optimum and very efficient in terms of cost. And ideas like these can help it make more sustainable as well as more effective in terms of public space. Then, as we started moving deeper into the project, we started formulating a certain design components for ourselves, so that we don't divert our minds to 10 different things, but be a little more focused on what we want to do. So as a toilet, we wanted it to be an active community space. So we didn't just want that toilet to be like just a toilet as a primary function, but it should have like multiple facets to it. You know, it should be like a community space or places where people can come and rest and sit. You know, that was one component that we.
Uh, can everyone hear Rohan sir? He seems to have signed out. There seems to be some problem. Rohan sir seems to have signed out. I'm just getting in touch with him and he'll be back soon.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So while we're waiting for Rohan, I think there's something wrong with his connectivity. Can we just have a round of short intro on which college you're from and whether you're participants or you've just joined in out of interest? Can we begin with, Vidya, will you unmute everybody? We can begin with Rohit. Rohit, can you unmute yourself? There's a button on the bottom of your screen. You
Rohit
can,
won't be able to unmute. I'll just unmute him. So let's start with Rohit.
yeah, Rohit.
Let me just unmute everybody then and then we can
Okay,
see.
they might, the others are requested to keep quiet or, you know.
Yes, yes. Rohit, go on.
Yeah, Rohit. Can't hear you, Rohit.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Hi, sorry. Some network error.
Also, Rohan is back, Rohit.
Yeah. I'm back.
You never got to speak. We'll take it little later. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rohit.
Okay, should I just start where I left from?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
mute it.
So yeah, I was talking about then the clean and accessible toilets, which is very crucial and as basic civic amenities shaped with smart designs like public toilets. Infrastructure facilities within the city and how they become more interactive to the people rather than just being like a dead spot in the city. Hmm. And obviously, again, the same sketch comes back to form one of the design components, like a pavilion-like space that kind of houses all the activities and, you know, make this complex more interesting and more interactive. Going ahead, so there are certain amenities as well as certain principles that we kind of formulated. So one was the facility should be easy to use and convenient for all age groups. It should be durable and less maintenance. So less maintenance in the sense we mean it should be easy to clean, and that means that there should be very minimum joints in the materials that we use, because if we create more seamless surfaces, it is very easy for the people, the cleaning staff, to maintain the facilities. And the next is adaptability and the replicable nature of the unit. So the designs should be adaptable to various spaces, because in such projects, what happens is it's not like an individual house or a bungalow where you're given a site and then, you know, you have this luxury of having your setback areas. In cities, you never know what kind of spaces you will get to build in. So your designs have to be adaptable and at the same time replicable and could be modified based on site conditions. Then the fresh and soothing ambience, signage in braille for the specially abled. So care should be taken obviously for the handicapped as well as the blind, so they can access the facilities. And sixth is it should add value to the city. And if you see around, none of the, I mean, not many, but most of the public toilets, they don't add value to the city. Whenever a public toilet comes up, it's like as if that corner becomes like a no to go corner, or people neglect that space. But in fact, it should happen the other way. The moment such facility comes in, the space should get enhanced with, you know, a lot of these activities. And then the add-on services. This is like the technological interventions that we could do. We can have like a camera that could put the camera in the public space, obviously not inside the toilets. Then drinking water facilities, dustbins, Wi-Fi connections, mobile charging points, which is the need of the day, because everyone is carrying a mobile and a lot of things we do on the phone. Then maybe an ATM or a vending machine, a sanitary pad incinerator, and things like that. So these are certain facilities we chalk down that we should provide in the projects that we do. So today I'm going to discuss 3 projects which we have completed, and then I'll show you a few projects which are under construction and are at a concept level. So in the course of discussing these 3 projects, I'll highlight the principles also that went into happening these projects. To start with, this is the Asiatic Society Library. It's a very famous library in Bombay. I think many of you all know this library. Maybe you'll have seen in movies or in real life or during the Kalagoda festival. The reason why I'm showing this image is it's a library which has the steps that come out. And it's very interesting the way the steps are laid out, because the steps become very interactive. I mean, though they belong to the library, but a lot of different activities happen on that space. So it's kind of a multifaceted structure at the entrance. So yeah, for example, it functions like an amphitheater. So a lot of performances happen during the Kalagoda festival. And this is like a very smart way of using space. Then sometimes people use it as a backdrop for fashion events or photography. Maybe sometimes there are cultural events happening on the same steps. during festivals or during events. So what I wanted to say through this is the public infrastructure that we create, it should not be just limited to its primary function. It should be multi-use. It should be multi-use. Only then we are talking about interacting with the city and the people. So that is what I wanted to convey through the example of the Asiatic Library. This is the first project we did in sanitation with Agasti. This is the light box. This is purely a restroom for women. And this is an image that clearly explains the problem women face in public spaces. I mean, they don't have a secured space where they can breathe or pause for a while, and if you see this image, that woman is very uncomfortably standing in that space. So that was our concern when we were starting to think about this project. I mean, the toilet was the basic amenity, but what additional we could give to this project was a thought always behind. So this was the site that we chose. So the corporation showed us 3-4 sites where we want to do the first prototype. We purposely chose this site because we wanted to express how we can integrate the nature within the project. So that's why we selected this tree and, on the green belt on the service road and in a very secured environment. So the infrastructure that we locate, it has some breathing space around. So these are just simple definitions that kind of allow people to start, defining their habitat in a certain way. Then these are the images when we first just defined, like, this is the site that we are going to build in. And before we could even define, no one used this space under the tree. And the moment we start defining spaces, then suddenly people started gathering and started coming in that space. So these are certain principles that went into the design of the light box. So one was, we thought it has to be a restroom, like a purely resting space. So we took that word literally. Second is lot of sunlight and ventilation, because sunlight kills the sunlight kills the naturally growing bacteria, which is quite helpful. Then seamless surfaces for easy maintenance. And fourth was skylights. So skylights are very important for public toilets, because usually what happens is, in public toilets, a lot of gutka packets and sanitary pad wrappers get stuffed into the windows. So it's very difficult to clean those spaces. So from that perspective, we thought skylights is a good solution for getting light and ventilation. So all the surfaces inside the toilet are seamless. Then we investigated a few diagrams, like how we want to build this project. So the green is the resting space, and on the sides are the toilets. So the left-hand side are toilets, and on the right-hand side is the nursing station and the handicapped, the orange and the yellow. Then we looked at a few combinations. So the first one was the center as the resting space. Then the second was like an interlocking resting space. Then the next was the resting space along the street and the facilities on the other side. And one was resting space on one side and your amenities on the other side. But looking at the overall aspect of scalability and replicability, we thought the first diagram worked well, because that allowed us to, the first diagram worked well because that allowed us to scale the prototype based on the spaces that are available in the city. So we went ahead with this idea. So the center becomes like a garden, like a resting space. You can see the benches. It's a very inviting image where you have a tree and some benches where you can come and sit. And then on the left and the right are the facilities where people can use. I mean, toilets and nursing stations and handicap toilets. And that's the plan we kind of agreed on, where you can look at the amenities on the sides. Now, the beauty of this plan is the length is 30 feet Now, tomorrow in the city, if I have 20 feet or 24 feet, I can just stretch or squeeze the plan. That is how it becomes replicable. And based on that, the center space reduces or increases. And if you look at the plan in more detail, you can see all the amenities that we have provided. So there's an Indian WC, there's a Western WC with a wash basin in between. Then there are benches, then the space for the ATM machine. Then on the right hand side, in the upper right corner, there's a nursing station come changing room with a diaper changing tray. Then right below that is a handicapped toilet with a ramp that allows one to access the toilet. And that toilet we have also kept as a senior citizens toilet, because the proximity with which the handicapped toilets are used is quite less. So we thought, let's open it out to the senior citizens. Then it becomes a little more efficient rather than just lying in that place. Then these are the few pictures during construction. So we constructed biodigesters under the light box. So what happens is all the waste that is generated gets decomposed on site. So we are not letting any sludge into any of the local nalas or the rivers. So it gets decomposed on site, and the outlet is wastewater and methane gas. So for methane gas, one has to run a pipe at the roof level because methane gas is combustible. So it might be prone to some explosion if it's interacting at a human height level or a height lesser than that. This is the underground network of biodigesters. So on the lower part, you see 6 compartments. So one by there are 2 water tanks, and there is a planter that we have created for the tree that is growing on the inside the light box. So the roots, the spread of the roots is controlled in a certain manner. And this is when the plinth was completed. So you can see where the tree is properly secured, and we have like a nice plinth to work with. This exercise was important because I spoke about optimizing the construction because these projects are on a really tight budget, and we wanted to optimize each and every inch that we consider for building. So if you see this section, this study, what we have done is 7 feet 6 inches is where the height goes, the hand, the human height, the hand of the guy is. Then we have 2 options. One is 9 feet 6 inches and 10 feet 6 inches. So we thought we should go with 9 feet 6 inches. So we get that 2 feet to place the water tank, and the top 1 feet we could save on because that was like unnecessary. And I think everyone knows that famous Corbusier's diagram with the modular scale. So it's a very similar method of space optimization. But here we use the Indian human standards to really calculate the heights. Then that is when the project, these are some images when the project got completed. And in the section, you can understand the network of biodigesters below the ground. And on the ground, we see the toilets on the left and the right, and the middle space becoming more like a breathable skin, which is the landscape. And to the left, we see the image which has the flooring in epoxy. It's not epoxy, it's actually polyurethane. And we wanted to have a seamless flooring because earlier, as I mentioned, the maintenance has to be easy. So it's completely joint-free flooring, which allows the staff to clean it easily. And that is one of the image that shows the transparent skin and the landscape in the middle. So one can actually see on the other side. So one enters that space and still feel as if you're outdoors, you're not inside a complex. And that is where this whole idea of the minimal protection in tropical climate comes into play. And that's the material palette we explored in this project. So the upper left-hand square shows the stainless steel and perforated metal. So perforated metal is something we felt comfortable to work with because it's a very robust material and it allows for a lot of natural light, ventilation. It also functions like a grill. No one can break through this perforated metal skin inside the complex, and it forms like a nice protective layer. Then we use like 50 mm by 50 mm box pipes to create this entire grid of structure. Then the polyurethane floor. And on the right side, this big image shows the interiors of the toilet, which are done in composite ACP panels, which are again water resistant. Usually these panels are used on the exterior of the building. So we thought the interiors of the toilet would be really good to use this material. And if you see, there are very less number of joints, only one joint we have. Because this material comes in panels of 4 by 8. That's why we had to have one joint. But one joint is manageable to maintain. Another image of the same project. Then this is at night. So an interesting thing happens at night. What happens is, so if you see during the day, all the light comes inside and lights the box, and that's where people start using the spaces and start feeling comfortable. The sunlight kind of enters and tries to avoid the bacteria that can naturally grow, etc. And the night, what happens is the light from inside goes out. So again, the periphery of the box is constantly lit, so the women feel comfortable in the vicinity. So, I mean, though there is a street light to the left-hand side, but the light of the complex makes the surroundings a little more comfortable. And then we identified, with the engineers of the Thane Municipal Corporation, we identified 14 different locations, so where the projects are currently built. And since this was a very scalable model, so not everywhere we have built the 10 by 30. Somewhere it's 10 by 24 or 10 by 20 or 10 by 36, based on how we got the sites. But this is like a rough map that shows the locations that we have built this project. The first prototype we built at the Teen Hath Naka, so which you see on the lower right circle after Anand Nagar Check Naka. There's this Teen Hath Naka. That is the first prototype we built, and then the rest were located in other locations. And taking this design further, we created a family of restrooms, so from small, medium, large, and extra large. So the one that we have constructed is the large, and then we have variations where it becomes a medium, which is a unit of 2 toilets, and then a small, which is a single unit, and then a larger complex, which is maybe for tourist locations or some other requirements. But we wanted to show through this diagram that how this model can be scaled into different sizes. And yet at the same time, it also becomes like a small unit of just one toilet. So moving ahead, so after this project, we got a chance to work on a project for the Western Railways at Bandra. So this project we termed it as a toilet in a courtyard. So this was the existing site that we were given. So it was an existing toilet which they wanted to refurbish and make it very close. The architecture they wanted was very close to the concourse building of the Bandra station, and that was the brief. So this is the existing scenario, and as you see, the spaces are very unfriendly, very shabby, water spilling over everywhere. The women does not have space to wait. People are randomly moving in and moving out. Yeah, this was this existing scenario. It's very unfriendly space, as you see. So here we worked with two principles. One, so as a courtyard, we thought it would work best uh, for two reasons. One is to contain the floating population for urinals. Since it is next to a railway station, next to a platform, the floating population for urinals is very high, and we needed space where that population can wait before uh, someone else's finishes. And secondly, it forms an essential microclimate for daylight and ventilation. So again, here the daylighting and ventilation plays an important role. So we are again using courtyard to do that. Earlier we used the perforated metal to do that. This time we are using the courtyard to do that. That is the plan that we kind of formulated after we studied the site. So as you see where the tree is, that's the courtyard, and around the courtyard we have organized the male toilets. So essentially around the courtyard there are all the urinals, so the floating population can move in and out very easily from there. In the back there are toilets for the male, and towards the front on the right hand side, those are female toilets. And we have purposely kept it very close to the entrance so the women can quickly go in and go out. And you see the ramp that gives access to a handicap toilet. And then on the right hand side is the platform. So that is how it's connected to the platform. And this is how it transformed into. So we use stone walls and perforated metal and polycarbonate ceiling. And this is a screen. This is a photo of the entry point. So we have multiple access points. So to the right hand side is the women's toilet, and around the courtyard is the men's toilet. And this photo is like we're standing inside the courtyard and looking towards the platform. So that is how the connection is. So from the platform also one can see the courtyard and identify, like, you know, there's some facility which is interesting. And early mornings, a lot of kids were on the platform. They come in and, you know, sit in the courtyard, want to brush their teeth, etc. But this is the material palette we dealt with. We had like stone walls, polished concrete. This was on purpose because we wanted to relate this project to the concourse building of the Bandra station, which is built in the old mallard stone and tiled roof, etc. And that's the passage to the male toilet. And again, we used perforated metal here, but in a different color so that it blends with the rustic material palette that we were working with. So here we use perforated metal to screen different areas, but at the same time, the visual accessibility was maintained. So this is the area for the handicap toilet, but it was important it is visually accessible because in case the person on the wheelchair needs some assistance or any help, the attendant can quickly recognize it and maybe run for help. And yeah, so that is the connection with the platform that I was talking about. Yeah, and then the next project we did was the paused restroom. So this was again a very different kind of a facility. So this is along the Bombay-Goa highway. And so this facility is specifically for the truck drivers and common public. So it's kind of a mixed program, but we managed to separate out the facilities quite well and the movement patterns, and we'll look at that when we see the plan. And so here we worked with the idea of color because as and when we started moving deep into this subject, we understood that color plays a very important role in sanitation projects. because one is all these infrastructural projects they have to be identified quickly wherever they are in the urban landscape. And secondly, we realize that the color absorbs the dirt and dust on surfaces that forms due to human interventions. So if you see, this is a very good example of what I'm trying to talk about, the idea of color, because these red boxes you suddenly identify where you have to put the letter, or these telephone booths in London, one can quickly identify where it is located. So one doesn't have to search. So this is where we wanted this project to be visually communicative. And if you see the telephone booth, the bottom of the telephone booth, it's little messed up with dirt, but still it doesn't matter that much because of that really strong color. So this is the plan that we worked with. So these two big spaces are the male and the female toilets, and on the upper part you see all those facilities are for the truck drivers. So the truck drivers were given with facilities right from a grooming center to a recreational space to a washing machine to a bathing area to toilets and even a tuck shop which sells water bottles and chips and stuff like that. Because usually a lot of accidents on the highway happen because the truck drivers, they do not have facilities where they can pause for a while. Otherwise, they're constantly driving at 22 hours at a stretch. It's quite stressful. And that is one of the reasons why the accidents happen. So this facility kind of caters to them and allows them to, like take rest and, get fresh and then move on to their journey. So this is how this facility looks like. Again, this has multiple entry points, which are accessing to different facilities. So the entry points right now you're looking at is entrance to the handicap. This is the entry to the handicap, then the women's toilet here, and then this passage goes all the way inside to the male toilet. And this is the Suvidha Kendra, which is for the truck drivers. And to the left-hand side, we have access point for the truck drivers facilities. That is the section we worked with. So this image, this is the entry point for normal public, which has like a very typical veranda kind of a space, which is also very domestic. So, and which also works like a waiting area for the women. And that is the attendant seat where he sits and makes sure all the functioning is happening properly. And the handicap access is right in the front. So the handicap people, they don't have to go all the way inside the complex, but rather stay right at the edge. That is inside the women's toilet. So here, so like in the first project, we used the perforated metal for light ventilation. Second project, we used the courtyard. So in the third project, we used so it's a very interesting situation. It's not a courtyard also, but not a skylight also. It is something in between that opens to the roof, and where we can grow the plants and a lot of light can, come inside. And this actually helps in drying the toilets faster. And also a lot of natural light inside makes the spaces feel very fresh. And these are the pictures that show the access towards the male toilet, and that's the toilet lobby, which has the wash basins and mirror, etc. And that is inside the male toilet. So the same section repeats here. So the wall just goes beyond the building line and opens out to the sky, where we could have plants and urinals. So it's kind of an interesting experience that we want to create. I mean, experience-wise is also very interesting, and it works logically also when the lot of air and light comes in to dry the toilets faster. And also the light plays an important role. These are some more images of how the light comes inside, and as and when the day changes, the light quality changes inside the spaces. These are some more shots during the day where the sun is at different angles. So in this images, one can really understand the freshness of the interior spaces. And I think that is very important in sanitation projects. And these are the facilities for truck drivers. So you can see the entry point where you can go inside, where the truck drivers can enter. And right outside there is a tuck shop, which kind of sells water bottles and chips, etc. And this is these are the truck driver facilities. That's the grooming center. So we did a lot of signages for this project, which was really important from a communication point of view. And then here also, we played around with the trees. All the trees are conserved and the beds are placed within the trees. So we purposely have these kind of beds so that the, excuse me, just 2 minutes. Yeah. So we purposely had these kind of beds so that the truck drivers, they feel comfortable while using these spaces, because guys are constantly those guys are constantly used to sitting on a charpoy whenever they go to a dhaba. And that's the grooming center. And that's the recreational area where all these guys are sitting and chit-chatting. There's also a television set that entertains them. And that's the side elevation of the building. That is how we try to express the architecture. Where the roof, the section of the roof is kind of expressed in a very robust forms. And that's the detail of the roof, where two roofs meet, and then there's a gutter which kind of collects the rainwater and pushes it out. So this project specifically took a step ahead in terms of how signages are important in public sanitation projects. Though this is the main logo of the complex, but so we had installed some signages on the highway also. So when one is driving the car, so they understand like at what distance is the facility. And on highways, we have to be very precise because the car is driving at a speed of 60 to 80 kilometers. And if we start writing a lot of information, no one is able to read. So we have to be very precise, very short, so one understands what they read. And these are some icons we developed for different facilities: male, female, truck drivers, no smoking, hair cutting, and etc. Shower and WC, etc. And for truck drivers, we did it in Hindi because it's easy for them to read. So every signage was in 2 languages. Yeah, like this. So the truck drivers, they're able to understand what is written. And they know where to go and where not to go. And these are some door metal signages. Signages for handicapped and senior citizens. Yeah, so this was about pause. And then the projects that I'm going to show now are certain concepts which are still in the pipeline and some projects that are under construction. So after we did the light box, we did another prototype called as the Light Pavilion, which was based on the principles of light box, but this was again for the Western Railways on the platforms. So these toilets were specifically placed on the end of the platforms. And the material palette is very similar to the light box. Just instead of a deep pink, we used a blue color because it's the color of the railways, and they wanted that color to come in one of their spaces, so that's why we used it. And this is how it looks from inside. These are very conceptual renders that we are working with currently. So that's a perforated metal that gives you a sense of what is there on the other side. You can see the train and the bridge on the top. This project is called Orange Box. So this we have proposed in Malkapur. Malkapur is like a small town. It's more like a village, and this facility is for the male and the female crowd. Like the image on the right hand side, you see a box which has a courtyard in the middle, and you also see a wall in between that kind of separates the male and the female facilities. And the courtyard, in the left hand side image, you see how the courtyard behaves, which again brings in light and ventilation. So a lot of principles that we learned from the previous project, we tried exploring them through a different set of elements, so they don't repeat. So that's how we are trying to create a variety in the design. And also here also the color plays an important role, and since being the village, like every city or every village has a color of its own. That's what I feel, and then that's where we start expressing those colors through this project. Like for example, like Delhi has the color of the sandstone, and like likewise different cities have different colors. Yeah, so it's a very small prototype, like a very tight space. But again, the use of courtyard plants, light, perforated metal, it's kind of creating that ambience that one requires inside the spaces. And again, how the urinals are placed, and where the screen, the plants, and so all these relationships are quite important, how you create them. And it's just a matter of planning. I mean, you don't have to like really do some rocket science to create a really good sanitation project, but certain important observation and certain principles you follow like kind of solves the problem. This is one important project we are currently involved to an extent, is the community sanitation program. This is in Calcutta, and this is a facility. Like on the left hand side, you see a plan. It's a complex which has facilities for male toilets, female toilets, and then in the corner there's spaces for bathing as well as washing clothes, bathing and washing clothes. And then there is a little reading room that is tucked over here. And then it's a tuck shop that is facing the road. So this kind of essentially will be selling products related to sanitation. And the reading room is a component that allows one to interact with this complex, rather making this like a more livelier space. And there are two pockets which are spaces for the male and female for resting or recreation. Because these facilities could pop up anywhere in the city. And for example, if it's near a school and if a mother is going to pick up her kid and she has to wait till the school is finished, then such spaces are very helpful, for creating those instances where one can wait and pause. And we propose this to build in exposed brick because Calcutta gets like really good quality bricks, and I think it makes sense to choose that material for construction. And these are some renders that will give you some insight about what those spaces are like. Yeah, so these are the spaces for women where they can, hang out. And we have purposely planned separate hangout spaces for men and women. I mean, they want to interact, they can come in the main courtyard, but they want to separate out, they can go in this corner, and the men can be on the right hand side of the steps. Yeah, and that's the central space, which is quite interactive, and one can see in the background, this is like a reading room, which is kind of tucked in, which is lined with vertical bamboos like a grill. So there is some it's kind of a semi-private space. Like one can see through and also not see through kind of a situation. Yeah, again that central space. So this space allows for a variation of activities. Um, so even during festivals and events, a lot of this space can transform into something. So it's interesting to see, though it is a community toilet, but it has so much possibilities to become something based on different events and uh, different festivals. This is another render from another side. And then we have created this private niches from where one can enter the toilets. So the common spaces, they don't necessarily look inside the toilets. So the toilets are entered through a very discreet niches, and the common spaces behave the way they have to. They interact more with the city. They're open more towards the city, and the toilets are open more to, not open, but they're more enclosed by these niches. And this is another project that we are doing in Kolhapur. It's so it's based on the principles of the light box, but this we are doing in concrete. So we are calling it as a concrete light box. And this is also a restroom for women. It's very similar plan. On the right hand side, you can see the little plan, which has a very similar arrangement with the center as the space for breathing. And we're building this in concrete because for the reason, like cities like Kolhapur and similar cities, and I mean, usually what happens during riots and all, the first buildings to be attacked are the toilets and the bus stops. So, and they have to be really strong. Otherwise, then it's a waste of a facility. In the metro cities, I'm not sure it happens to that extent, but in this two-tier cities, I mean, I have observed that a lot. So that's why we decided to go with concrete as the material. So, you know, that one instant this building doesn't get attacked, or it gets attacked, it doesn't collapse. So these are certain renders. So here we used yellow as the color just to express the freshness, and like our projects are more about color. So every project you will see one or the other color that is there. I mean, floating around. So sometimes it is logical, and sometimes it is for just enhancing the visual aesthetics of the space. That is how that center space. And the center is not open to sky. In fact, it has a polycarbonate roof. But I think this render is a little misleading. It is showing a lot of sky. It's that space is rainproof center. And yeah, so these are certain very conceptual renders to very artistic looking renders that give you a hint into the space. And that is how the male section is. Again, that has a roof that is not open to sky, but it is covered with a polycarbonate sheet, and a lot of light comes in. Vidya, I have to just switch to another presentation, I think.
Sure, you can do that. You want to stop sharing and then switch? Go ahead.
Yeah. So
Go on the red button on the top
So
saying stop sharing, and then you can switch to the next.
Stop sharing. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Am I on the screen? Vidya,
Yes,
am I on
yes.
the screen?
Yes, yes, you are.
Uh, so that was about the sanitation projects, and I just want to share this little infrastructure work that we are doing for uh, uh, doing in Tirupati, and it's very close to sanitation as well as it's a little away from it. So here we are asked to design like 3 prototypes. One is a bus stop, then a bus stop, a kiosk, and bus stop, kiosk, and a toilet. So I'll just quickly run through these ideas that have gone into this project. And these are some, this is the bus stop. So here we are using steel and color to express the architecture of this project. And these are some project features. As design principles, what we want to express. So visually accessible seating and resting space, digital intervention, and roof with solar panels. So all the facilities are solar powered. And these are the list of facilities that we are proposing, and then the integrating architecture and landscape as you saw in the previous project. So there's always the architecture and landscape it's like a coherent. And that's the module that we have. So unlike the light box, where the center was a garden and on the either sides we have facilities, this is like a reverse of that. So on the side we have the gardens, and in the middle we have the facilities, because bus stop is all about like seating spaces and like the digital interventions and things like that. So here the brief was they wanted this to be like a completely digital bus stop. So most of the surfaces that we have shown in this drawing are digitally activated. And that's how this looks like. So here also we decided to have a red color because one is to identify it quickly. And it's like a bird's eye view. And that is how it looks like from the front elevation. This is like the street view. And that's the another module, bus stop and kiosk. The principles remain same, but the facilities goes on increasing. So what happens is when the bus stop there were gardens on either sides. So one of the side gets converted into a kiosk and facility. So this kiosk essentially means a water ATM or a normal ATM. And then we have a long concrete bench where one can sit. And that's how the prototype transforms from bus stop into a bus stop and a kiosk. And as you move ahead, we add a toilet in that. So it's like this project is we designed one master module and then we went on adding different parts to it. So the design principles are same, only the facilities go on increasing and decreasing. So on the right hand side, you see there's a kiosk and also a toilet. There's a common lobby and things like that. Again, that's the elevation. And then we thought like we went a little ahead and we said like instead of all the bus stops being red in color, could we use color to express the particular area in the city? I mean, and they kind of agreed on that. So then we thought of using different colors to kind of highlight different components, and those colors will be very specific to the particular place in Tirupati or within the city where it is located. So we did some variations. I mean, we are still working on this, and we are yet to conclude on the colors. But just to show, we kind of showed them different variations. One is this mud orange color, then this is like a yellow orange, and maybe blue or a pink. And this is how that prototype looks like. And this is kind of a close to a realistic render, and this is how it kind of will appear to be with the landscape and when the bus crossing by. Things like that. So I think that was about all the projects that we have done and currently working on in public sanitation and infrastructure. And so these are all the experiences that I had in the last 3 years, and still we are busy with some other stuff on sanitation. Yeah, so that's about it.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. It was a really insightful presentation and such